So earlier this year in February 2025, Nikon announced this lens right here, a 35-1.2, and it kind of flew under the radar, and I don't think it should, because this is one of the best lenses I've used in a long time. Let's talk about it. And big thank you to Aftershoot for sponsoring today's video. We'll talk about them a little bit later on. So this video kind of came together a little bit randomly. A few weeks ago, just got a package delivered to my house out of nowhere, opened it up, it was this 35 from Nikon. And then I remembered, hey, way back in March, I did mention to one of my friends who works at Nikon how I wanted to try this lens out, and I signed a piece of paper. The lens never showed up, and I assumed, you know, it was just something that got lost in the sauce. Everybody's busy, but now it's here. And for the last few weeks, I've been trying this out. And today I want to talk about why I'm so impressed with this lens. Now, there are a few things that I don't love about this lens, which I think is the reason why it's kind of gone under the radar when it comes to YouTubers and people talking about this on social media. But personally, this thing's great. Like, it is one of the most impressive lenses that I've used in a long time. So the first thing that really stood out to me about this lens is simply the 1.2 aperture. Now, 1.2 aperture is one of those things that on other cameras I don't find myself using very often, but on 35mm it is something very practical because the depth of field is kind of just right at 35mm where you can get away with a 1.2 aperture. So the first thing I did with this lens was go out and just do a bunch of 1.2 aperture tests just to see how good it was. A lot of these photos are nothing that I'm going to put in a book or send to my mom or something like that, but they are pretty cool. I just love the depth of field on these. The images have really nice bokeh to them, and most importantly, the images are extremely sharp in the center. I mean, like tack sharp at f1.2. Typically with low aperture lenses like this, I'm mentally prepared for a slight drop in quality as you get to its max aperture. So with a lens like this, once we got to 1.2, I was expecting there to be a little bit of a drop in quality, but with this 35-1.2 from Nikon, that's not there. You can't tell the difference between an image shot at 1.2 and an image shot at f2. The sharpness is the exact same. Obviously, one image is going to have more depth of field than the other, but in terms of sharpness, there's no real difference regardless of what aperture you use, and that is extremely impressive. I just personally love the way these images render and the character to them and the way the colors look. This is something that's always really difficult to describe in a YouTube video like this, but the best way I can put it is I have a Sigma 35-1.2 L-mount lens that I'm actually in the process of selling because I just don't like the way those photos look. There's something off about them, and I don't like the way the colors render, whereas with this Nikon 35-1.2, the images are just beautiful. The depth of field is nice. There's just something about these photos, and when you go to edit them, the way they color grade and take an edit is very nice, and the images just work. Like, I know it's something that's kind of tricky to describe in a video like this, but if you were to try this and compare it to other 35-1.2s out there, I think you would agree with me when I say this one just has a nice feel to it. And that nice feel translates over to video. I used this lens to shoot an Instagram reel that was a behind the scenes kind of day in the life thing when I went up to Highlands, North Carolina. I really love the versatility, like I already mentioned, of 35mm. You can kind of use it for a little bit of everything when it comes to your shots. You can get wide shots, you can get tighter shots, you can also utilize that depth of field creatively with video, and I love the look once again of video shot with this lens. And when you get all of that mixed in together, you have a lens that is basically the best of an already versatile lens. 35, in my opinion, is one of the best lenses out there because you can do basically everything with it. As you get closer to your subject, you can get a really cool portrait, you can step back, get a landscape photo. You can really do everything at 35mm. And if I was someone who was still doing photography, say at Epitome ATL, and I wanted one lens that could handle everything I threw at it, something like this with a low aperture is going to be the answer for those problems. Now, unfortunately, I'm not working at Epitome anymore, and I have some different needs when it comes to the lenses that I use, and I want to talk about the negatives of this lens in a second after I thank today's sponsor, Aftershoot. Now, advice that I've given in previous videos that I stand by is that one of the easiest ways to make your photos look more professional is to retouch your images. Take that extra 30 to 45 minutes to make sure your image is perfect. But unfortunately, most of you ignore me because retouching your photos is boring, tedious, and no one wants to do it. And that's where today's sponsor, Aftershoot, comes into play. Aftershoot is already known for speeding up your editing workflow by allowing you to cull through batches of images quickly and allowing you to apply your editing style to large batches of photos, but they're speeding up your editing workflow even more with the introduction of AI retouching. You can now quickly smooth skin while keeping a natural feel. You can remove blemishes with one click, and you can even remove things like glare from glasses and remove flyaway hairs with just one click. And this AI retouching is not just for portraits. You can use this for object removals when it comes to things like street photography, landscape photography, and product photography. And personally, I really like the fact that Aftershoot is using AI more as a tool and not as something to replace photographers. And they're dedicated to making sure that the results of these AI features is real looking. They don't want that plasticky look and that AI look that you get with other editors. And also, it's worth mentioning, Aftershoot doesn't do that sneaky thing where they charge you more money if you edit more photos. Aftershoot has no limit to the amount of photos that you can edit with their subscription plans. So Aftershoot is hooking up the channel with a special offer. New users can use the first link in the description and get 30 days of Aftershoot for free to try out with your editing workflow, test out the editing features, and get access to the new retouching features as well, which are a free public beta up until September. So use that first link in the description and start speeding up your editing workflow today with Aftershoot. So I'm re-recording this ending because I realize a lot of people don't know what I'm talking about when I mentioned Epitome ATL and how this lens would be great for that. So Epitome ATL was a photography job that I did when I started my career. I essentially was making all the internet media for this brand in Atlanta, and this job required a lot of quick turnarounds on shoots. We were trying to make content for every single day of the week, and with these jobs, it was always varying. Sometimes it was product photography, sometimes it was lifestyle photography, sometimes there was a model involved, sometimes not, and the goal was to create photography that wasn't overly repetitive, even though we were making quite a bit of content. So I did a quick test where I did a mock photo shoot in that environment using these Photography Live Forever hats from evanranf.com. You can check them out if you want one. You can support the channel by grabbing yourself one, but I did a quick photo shoot just to test this concept, and this lens worked exactly how I thought it would work. I was able to create a variety of different shots very quickly, very easily, utilizing the bokeh of this lens, the sharpness of this lens, and just all the different ways you can utilize a 35mm focal length. And my Nikon Z8 spazzed out for some reason, so all those photos were shot in JPEG and I didn't realize it. So the fact that even JPEGs look this good with a small color grade to them should say a lot. This lens, for its price, is definitely worth it. I tested it side by side next to the 135 Plina 1.8, which is considered one of Nikon's sharpest lenses. And the results side by side, it's hard to tell which lens is which, and that just goes to show how sharp this 35-1.2 is. So if you're someone out there who's thinking about getting this and you have the means to pay for it, by all means, go for it. This lens is incredible. There is nothing bad I can say about it other than the insane price tag to get something this high quality. This lens is $3,000, which is a ton of money, and I think it's the reason why this has kind of flown under the radar as a big release for Nikon. It's just, in today's climate, most people don't have $3,000 to spend on a prime lens. But another drawback for me personally is just the general size and weight of this lens. I prefer smaller lenses for the type of photography that I do now, and this thing is very bulky and very heavy. It's even heavier than this 135 Plina. Well, maybe it's not heavier, but they're pretty much the exact same weight. And a Plina lens like this you're using for very specific things, so I'm okay with the weight on a 135 focal length. But when you're using a 35mm lens and you're just wanting to take this everywhere, it can be a little bit much to have a lens this heavy. So personally for me, this one's not for me right now, but that's just a personal bias when it comes to photography lenses in general. For every person who agrees with me and wants a lens that's a little bit smaller, there's going to be someone who doesn't care. So that input right there doesn't affect the performance and the capabilities of this lens, which are incredible. It's just worth noting that I think the price and the general size of this lens had a little bit to do with the fact that not a lot of people are talking about it, even though in my opinion this is probably the best lens to come out this year, and it's definitely one of Nikon's best lenses ever based on all the different lenses I've used from them for the last 10 years. So with that said, I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. My favorite photo on the day from this test has got to be this Corvette photo. I really like the Corvette photo when it's paired with the BMW photo. I think those two together are a nice contrast of new and old. Now, if you want to replicate the editing style on both of these photos, you can use this preset formula from evanramf.com. You can use Ramf preset 34, you can use basic adjustments 11 and color grade 13. So you apply each one of those presets and you're going to get the formula that creates that final result. With that said, I'm going to get out of here. Thanks for watching it. Hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed today's video, subscribe if you are not yet, and I'll catch y'all in the next one.